It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back. Our phone number, 615-649-8477, 615-649-8477. And, of course, you can watch us live and in living color on YouTube. Just type in Michael Patrick Leahy Show, and boom, there we are. You can reach me on X, formerly Twitter, Michael P. Leahy. Love to hear from you. A couple little stories that are breaking. This from the Washington Times, timely. Trump Department of Justice could change fate of Supreme Court dispute. Court watchers are eyeing the Supreme Court's handling of the challenge to a state law banning kid sex changes, actually banning the use of puberty blockers and hormone therapy, as the incoming Trump administration is expected to reverse course in the dispute early next year. What would that mean? Well, I think it might mean is they might file a notice with the Supreme Court that the Department of Justice is removing itself as a plaintiff in the case. That would just leave then the ACLU and also the I guess three kids in Tennessee that were claiming that their rights have been denied. So we got that. Also, later this hour, we will play for you the live interview that Donald Trump did earlier today with Jim Cramer on the floor of the stock exchange just about an hour ago. It's pretty interesting. But right now, we want to talk about drones. Drones. This story is kind of bizarre. I mean, here we are in the United States of America, and for about a month, over parts of New Jersey, and particularly over the Bedminster Golf Course, which Donald Trump owns and where he hangs out occasionally, lives occasionally, I guess mostly. His primary residence right now, of course, is Mar-a-Lago down in Florida. But they've for about a month, these very large drones, I think dozens of them, have been flying around parts of suburban New Jersey. And they could be, I don't know, as big as an SUV, according to some reports. And it's controversial because yesterday, Congressman Jeff Van Drew, he's a guy from New Jersey, was a Democrat, switched to Republican. He said high sources told him that the drones were coming from a Iranian mothership off the coast of New Jersey in the Atlantic, and then they would come up every night from there. I don't know how he knows that, but clearly we shouldn't have dozens of drones over a suburban neighborhood. And the initial thought is, well, gosh, let's shoot them down. Asterisk. What happens if you shoot them down and it lands on a house filled with kids? That's a problem. But the Biden administration doesn't seem to have any answers on this. Bret Baier at Fox News said he's kind of obsessed with this. Here we have clip 14, Bret Baier talking with Brian Kilmeade about it yesterday.
But you believe the drone story in New Jersey, Staten Island, nonstop since middle of November to today, is the number one story?
I mean, I think so. Maybe it's my obsession with it because I just think it's so unbelievable that no one in government is telling us anything about this. And, why hasn't one of these things been shot down? Probably because there are.
It's a little dangerous. They're huge.
There was one over Langley Air Force Base. There's a couple in the southern border. These are big things. And we haven't found anything that explains it. And no one is talking on Capitol Hill or at the White House. Nothing. It's insane. It's insane. The governor of the state of New Jersey says, I need federal help. I don't even get it.
I've not been a real big fan of Bret Baier for a number of reasons. But I have to say his interview of Kamala Harris was very well done. And the curiosity he displays and I wouldn't call it outrage, but the intensity of thought there is something with which I agree. Okay, so you've got a congressman who says higher sources telling me it's from an Iranian mothership. Been out there for a month. A spokesperson for the Department of Defense, however, came out yesterday and said something entirely different. Here we go, clip 7.
Jen. Sabrina, can you tell me what the Pentagon is doing to address this issue of drone sightings over New Jersey? It's near a sensitive installations? The FBI is involved. What is the Pentagon doing?
Sure. So at this time, aware of those drone sightings that have been reported, at this time we have no evidence that these activities are coming from a foreign entity or the work of an adversary. We're going to continue to monitor what is happening, but at no point were our installations threatened when this activity was occurring.
Can you rule out that these are American drones or U.S. military drones?
These are not U.S. military drones. Again, this is being investigated by local law enforcement. What our initial assessment here is that these are not drones or activities coming from a foreign entity or adversary.
Representative Jeff Van Drew, who is a Republican from New Jersey, was just on the air saying that Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones, and that mothership is off the coast of the east coast of the United States. Is there any truth to that?
There is not any truth to that. There is no Iranian ship off the coast of the United States, and there's no so-called mothership launching drones towards the United States.
Okay, so how does she know that? How does she know? They don't know anything about these drones, but they do know that it's not coming from an Iranian mothership off the coast of New Jersey out in the Atlantic. How do they know that? Did you notice what the real question was? The real question was, well, there are all these drones all over the place. What are you doing about it? Did you catch any answer? No, there was no answer. They just say, well, these aren't foreign drones. How do you know that? They didn't answer that. And what are you doing about it? We're monitoring it? No. This is it possible that these are foreign? Yes, it is possible. Who is it? Who has authority over it? According to the Pentagon spokesperson, local law enforcement is looking into it. Are you kidding me? Does local law enforcement in New Jersey have the capability to look at it? The New Jersey State Police held a briefing, quote, for New Jersey state legislators about it. Here we have one of those legislators who was unimpressed with that briefing. Clip 9.
All right, so you're here today. You were just inside. You walked out. Why?
I walked out because it was worthless. It was the biggest amateur hour presentation I've ever seen about anything, okay? It was ridiculous. There were no answers. Every question that was asked by a member of the state legislature, great questions, no answers, no resolution. They don't know where the drones are coming from. They don't know who's doing it. They don't know why they're doing it, but they say there's no credible threat. It was annoying to be there. I drove 2
so
hours to
let
be
me
here
just say
today.
this. Yeah, there's these drones, dozens of them, in the air in suburban New Jersey. Been there for a month. The size of SUVs. Well, we don't know who is behind them, but they're not a threat. Are you kidding me? Talk about focus. This is the Biden administration. This is the Democrat state governments, how they just don't handle anything. What's the right answer here? Well, the right answer is to get together an intense special group that has the authority to address it and say, solve this problem in 72 hours. Now, the problem probably is, if you don't know who it is, you got to shoot them down. Yeah, there would be the possibility of problems on the ground. You tell everybody, okay, headline, no, get out of town, go to a hotel, go someplace else, get out of there because we're going to shoot these down tonight. And you shoot them down and you analyze them. That's what has to happen. They got to solve the problem. You know, the old saying is, if you got a snake in the room, Colin Powell used to say this, you don't get a task force together to monitor the snake. If it's a dangerous snake, you cut off the head of the snake. Boom. That's what has to happen. And they're not doing it. It's illustrative of our pathetic Defense Department that they're not on top of this. All right, we'll have more when we get back. If all goes well, State Senator Brent Taylor from Memphis is going to join us. Back after this.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of The Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
We welcome to our newsmaker line right now our good friend, Tennessee State Senator Brent Taylor, who is from Memphis. Senator Taylor, you had a good victory here in court the other day. I'll just read the story from WMC in Memphis. A legal victory for the Tennessee State Senator from Memphis, who sponsored the new law requiring public safety to be the first consideration when setting bail. A federal judge denied a request to put the law on hold. Just City Memphis, the ACLU, and other legal advocates filed suit in July to put it on hold, and the judge ruled in your favor. Your thoughts on that, State Senator Taylor?
Well, I thank you for having me. First of all, Michael, I'm glad we won that case, and we'll see if the Supreme Court takes the case up. If they don't, obviously, that will be the end of the road, that they will uphold the lower court's decision. But, look, I believe Just City, Decarcerate Memphis, ACLU, and all of the other restorative justice schemers, I think they're as pissed off as a woodpecker in a petrified forest over that outcome of that court case.
Yeah. Well, I would say they were not happy at all about it. You said that there's a standing bail order down there that they've been using where the judge says, how much money, Mr. Defendant, do you have in your pocket? And if the guy says, I don't have any money, they let him out. I think you said that that order was written in 2 languages.
It was. That order, first of all, I have been complaining about that standing bail order since I took office two and a half years ago or so. And I have tried with legislation to essentially dismantle that standing bail order, and we've been successful. And that standing bail order has made our community down in Memphis much less safe. And that standing bail order was written in 2 languages, as you said. It was written in English and stupid. And what I complained about with judges literally asking defendants, how much money do you have in your pocket to pay bail? My critics said that didn't happen, that judges were not asking that. And Rogue Judge Anderson just had a bail hearing the other day, and we got audio, and we released it, and where he literally asked the defendant and his mother how much money could they come up with for bail. So, look, Just City, Decarcerate Memphis, the other restorative justice schemers, I wouldn't believe a word they said if their tongue was notarized.
That's pretty good. That's a new one. I hadn't heard that, but well done on that. There's Memphis is just... Your mission is to, from a legislative point of view, your mission is to help, make Memphis safer. How's it going?
I think we're making progress, and there, my mission of Make Memphis Matter is really twofold. One is I want to make Memphis matter in Nashville, so that we can get better outcomes in terms of legislation and also when it comes to getting the attention that Memphis needs from out of Nashville, from the commissioners and the governor and the legislature. So it's about making Memphis matter locally, but it's also about making Memphis matter in terms of making it a safer community. and it will take all hands on deck. I mean, we need our law enforcement to work. We need the right laws in place, which I'm working on, but we also need the people who are elected in the criminal justice system to do their part, like Rogue Judge Anderson and our progressive DA down in Shelby County. They're not doing their part. And that's why I'm going to hold them accountable as soon as we start back in the legislature in January. I'm going to be holding them accountable to do what they were elected to do. DA Mulroy has changed his tune 180 degrees since I said I was going to go after his job. And it goes to show you, Michael, that all along I've been trying to save a city, and he's changed his tune just because he's wanting to save his job.
Yeah, good point. Now, this is a little bit tangential, but not exactly. So I've been following this odd situation where the Department of Justice is trying to get the Memphis to sign a consent decree. You've probably followed this. This is an outgrowth of the 2023 killing of Tyree Nichols. He's a black man. He was handcuffed, beaten by officers. I think there were 5 of them. All the officers were black. Tyree died, and there was no justification for it. They've been sued. Well, they've been tried in federal court for depriving civil rights. They've been convicted. Some of them have. There's also, I think there's some state charges there as well. So the Department of Justice has swooped in and said that the police department in Memphis is biased against black people in Memphis. But that particular situation, all the officers involved were black. The police chief is black. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get Memphis in the next, 39 days or so to pay a whole bunch of money to the federal government in a consent decree. What are your thoughts on that? It seems to me it's counterproductive, but what are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. You laid it out well. We've got a majority black city in Memphis. We've got black leadership. The mayor is black. The city council is majority black. The police chief is black. A majority of the police force is black. But somehow the Department of Justice has said that they are a bunch of white supremacists running around violating the rights of black people. That finding by the Department of Justice is as credible as my mother's Facebook page. And I applaud Mayor Young for telling the federal government and the Department of Justice that he is not going to enter into a consent decree. There is help on the way. President-elect Trump will be taking office in January, and we'll see a new Department of Justice. And the DOJ and other cities where they have done this, it's taken them 3 years to come to conclusions and have findings. They've done this in 17 months. Clearly, they are trying to rush this to try to dupe the mayor into signing a consent decree, and I'm glad the mayor is not falling for it.
So, also, in 38 days now, Donald Trump will become the 47th president. His attorney general nominee, Pam Bondi, clearly will get confirmed. His assistant attorney general, who I know because she's actually our attorney in one matter, Harmeet Dillon, has been nominated for the assistant attorney general in the Civil Rights Division. She will get easily confirmed. My sense is they are going to have a very different attitude towards this consent decree. Have you had an opportunity to communicate with the president your views on the lack of merit in this proposed consent decree with the city of Memphis?
I have not had any communications with the new administration, President Trump's administration. They obviously don't need my help. I think he will do an excellent job of cleaning up our immigration mess and our economic mess and the situation at the border. And so the last thing I want to do is to stand in his way and be a distraction to him. I have no doubt that the Department of Justice will do what they can to focus on real crime and which involves illegal immigration and all the problems that come with that, and not go around harassing these local police departments with something as asinine as a black city with a black mayor and a black police chief and a black police force somehow acting as white supremacists. That's the most ridiculous
Yeah.
thing I've heard. And again, it's as credible as my mother's Facebook page.
I don't get why they're doing it. Do you have any understanding as to what the motive of the Biden Department of Justice has been on that and to jam it through?
Well, I believe it's they want to try to take over and try to run as many of these police departments so they can engage with all of their woke policies, which only serve to make citizens less safe. And look, those 5 police officers that they use as justification to come in and do this at the Department of Justice, those 5 police officers, number one, they were black, that killed Tyree Nichols, who was black, and they deserve everything they have coming to them. They should spend the rest of their days watching the sun come up and down through a jail cell window, and I hope that's what they get. And there are ways to deal with rogue police officers who violate people's constitutional rights and that murder people. There are ways to deal with them without the federal government micromanaging the police department.
Good point. And I really applaud your attitude that President Trump has plenty on his plate right now, and they'll get around to solving this problem when he's in there. They don't need to hear from me. I thought that was refreshingly humble from a man who is doing a lot of great things to make Memphis a great city again. State Senator Brent Taylor, thanks so much for joining us today.
Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate all the work you do, and keep up the fight, and I appreciate you.
All right, thanks. Hey, when we come back, more legal matters. Mark Pulliam is a friend of ours. He lives in Tennessee now, but he practiced law, I think, for like 30 years in the state of California. And there's a lawsuit. A transgender woman who's detransitioning is suing her doctor for negligence in California. Wow, what's going on there? We'll talk to Mark Pulliam about that when we get back.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
We are delighted to welcome to our newsmaker line our very good friend, Mark Pulliam, a retired attorney who blogs at Misrule of Law, practiced law in California for several decades, now lives in the great volunteer state. Welcome, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Well, good morning, Michael. Thanks for having me.
I think when we were last on, we talked on about the United States v. Scarametti case, where I think the state of Tennessee's law banning the use of puberty blockers and hormones and surgery, life-transforming surgery on minors who think they want to change genders. I think the Supreme Court's going to rule 6-3 or 5-4 in favor of the state of Tennessee. But there's an interesting related case, I think. And I thought of you, since you practiced law in California for so long. It's a California case, and it's brought by a 20-year-old woman who 6 years ago, her name is Kaya Clementine Breen. And 6 years ago, she was treated by Dr. Johanna Olson Kennedy, who fast-tracked her to do some gender transitioning with puberty blockers, hormones, and a double mastectomy. She's suing her now in Los Angeles Superior Court for negligence. Now, that's a bit of a long setup, but I want to add this, Mark. I'm doing the night law school thing here at the Nashville School of Law, and we have a terrific torts professor. His name is Marshall Davidson. He's taught for 30 years. And he said the other night, sometimes in tort law, certain states kind of set the tone for the rest of the country. And he said California is one of those states. And everybody kind of in the class kind of shuddered for a while. California setting the tone in tort law. This might be an example of a tort law case in California that actually might set a trend in a good way if the detransitioner wins their claim of negligence. Let me just stop now and say, what are your thoughts on all this, having practiced law in the state of California for so many years?
Well, I agree with your assessment of this case. And in fact, some of the best reporting about this case was done by Tennessee Star's own Rachel Alexander. And this is exactly the type of horror story illustrating the wisdom of Tennessee's SB 1, the law that was argued in the Supreme Court just a couple of weeks ago. And what happened to this young woman in California is almost indescribably horrible. That she was a 12-year-old with some trauma in her life. She had an autistic brother. There was some mental health history in her family. And like a lot of pre-adolescents, she was confused. And she came out as gay at 12. How kids know at 12 that they're gay is beyond me. And then she went and told her school counselor at age 12 that she really felt like she was a boy trapped in a girl's body. And based on that, the school contacted the parents, urged the parents to go see these gender reassignment specialists at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. And this is when the horror story really began to unfold. And so she went to see this doctor, the doctor that you identified, who's considered one of the leading gender reassignment doctors in the country and who heads up the Children's Hospital trans unit for children. And based on a very cursory examination, within minutes, she diagnosed this girl with gender dysphoria and convinced the parents to begin a course of treatment that involved puberty blockers at age of 12, hormone therapy starting at 13, and then a radical double mastectomy at 14, and a hysterectomy at 17.
No, I didn't know about the she had a hysterectomy too? Oh, my goodness.
That's what the reporting, that's what the indicates. And this was based on misrepresentations that the doctors, they didn't do any kind of psychological exam, no psychiatric exam, no evaluation of what else was going on in this girl's life that might, have made her confused or vulnerable. They told the parents that she was suicidal and that it would only get worse if she didn't have this treatment. And in fact, there was no record of suicidal ideation. That was an outright lie.
No record of suicidal ideation. Wow, that is significant.
And they told the parents, and the treatment notes say that the patient had indicated this gender dysphoria since infancy, when in fact it had only happened as of the age of 12. And so, and they also told the parents that the puberty blockers would be reversible if she decided not to go forward.
But that's not true.
It's not true. So this was deceit. This is, not just a lack of informed consent. This is basically fraudulent misrepresentation. And now, at age 20, she's a student at UCLA, and all of this is pretty close to home. My daughter went to the UCLA. The lawyer representing her, Chuck Lemandry, is an attorney that practices in San Diego County, where I used to practice. And so at age 20, she's changed her mind, and she's decided, I'm not a boy. I don't want to be a boy. But her life, in many ways, has been ruined.
She cannot have children.
And she couldn't breastfeed them if she could. She's, surgically mutilated, has an Adam's apple. She's, it's a horrible situation. And so I know from practicing, doing defense work for 30 years in California, juries are very unforgiving. And it's been rated by tort reform groups, California courts, as a judicial hellhole. And I would say that this is a multi-million-dollar lawsuit.
So let me ask you this on the details of this. So it's going to be in the trial court, the lowest court is Superior Court in Los Angeles. You've appeared in Superior Court in California many times. How will this tort case roll through? When will they begin the process? When will a jury trial start?
Well, things are backlogged in California courts. It could take years before it makes it to trial, but this is a case that's not going to make it to trial.
Tell me why. Tell me why it won't make it to trial.
Because I think once the lawyers get involved, they'll look at these facts that are being reported in the paper and the stuff that's in the complaint. And according to Lemandry's complaint, he says 80 to 90% of minors who undergo these types of gender reassignment surgeries as children change their minds. So
wow.
This whole industry, and then he goes into why is it that these doctors are so intent on, and she's not alone, that there have been thousands, 2,084 children have undergone similar gender assignment procedures in California alone between 2019 and 2023.
How many?
Over 2,000.
Wow.
So this is, for the people doing it, this is a cash cow. This is an industry. And they figure once you get these people signed up, not only do you get to do these very lucrative surgeries, but then you have a lifetime patient who's going to need ongoing hormone supplements, so forth. So it's a profit motive, and I think anybody who listens to these facts, and that's what a defense lawyer is going to do, is say, how is a jury drawn, from the ranks of the Los Angeles jury pool, going to view this? And they're going to view it as a horror story with a young, sympathetic woman whose life has been ruined. This is the classic case, and you have a deep-pocketed defendant. So this is a sky is the limit type of case that they're going to try to settle this. But I think in Lemandry's case, in the parents' case, they want to make sure, they're not just in it for a quick settlement. They want to see that justice is done and that some of these doctors get the fate that they deserve.
So will there be a settlement with a statement from the defendant in this instance, or what? And how much would the settlement be, and what impact will it have on other transitioned children who now regret their decision?
Well, the fact that this case is getting so much attention, not just in California but nationally, is going to have a ripple effect throughout the entire industry. And so I don't know how quickly the settlement is going to happen or how much the settlement. I would assume that this is going to be not just in the high six figures, but it's going to be well into the seven-figure type of settlement. Now, they like to keep these things, the details confidential, but until you get this thing signed up, it's subject to public disclosures, and the court record is a matter of public record. There's going to be depositions and discovery, and articles like the one that Rachel Alexander did, bringing this to the nation's attention. Because what we heard from the ACLU and from the Solicitor General of the United States at the Supreme Court argument is that these types of procedures involve very little risk. It's akin to taking aspirin, according to, I think it was Justice Sotomayor.
Sotomayor, yeah.
And if the kids don't get it, they're all going to commit suicide. So it would be cruel not to let them do it, when the reality is that the physical and mental health consequences of doing it far outweigh any benefit. Many, in most cases, 80-90%, people regret it and try to reverse it, but it's irreversible. So this lawsuit could very well have the effect of making this entire enterprise collapse, because it's like a big balloon. All it takes is one prick of a pin, and people will realize, oh. And the worst thing is that this woman who runs this clinic, the one who diagnosed her and rushed her into these life-altering procedures, had a $10 million study that she did, and she's admitted that after doing this study, she does not disclose the results of it because the results of the study were contrary to what everybody had been saying, which is that you need to do these things in order to prevent people from having psychological consequences, and what it showed was the opposite. So these people are frauds. They lie to patients. They lie to the public. This whole thing, I think, will turn out to be something history looks back on as a horror story, and we'll wonder, how did we let this happen? Akin to putting Japanese Americans in internment camps. It'll be regarded like, these eugenic procedures where people were sterilized. It'll be a stain on our history, and this woman, who's the defendant in this case, is like the poster child for this.
Last question for you, Mark Pulliam. When you see a case like this, do you have an inclination to come out of retirement, put your legal suspenders back on, and work for some plaintiffs who've been forced into this kind of transition?
Well, if there weren't a whole cadre of people like Chuck Lamandry willing to do this on a contingency basis, and the thing is, if he has any success with this case, there's a Shark Tank of lawyers
waiting to jump in.
California, eager. It'll be blood on the water. It'll be a feeding frenzy.
Mark Pulliam, Misrule of Law. Mark, thanks so much for joining us today. Always great insight.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Back with more after this. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.
My fellow Americans, I have to tell you about my good friends at D.T. McCall & Sons. They have furniture and appliances and a lot more. They've been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years, and they're not going to rip you off. No hidden charges, no delivery charges, no charges for all of the crazy things. These are sick people at the lumber yards. These are very sick people. They charge you for cords and hoses and haul-off. They charge you for all of these things. They call them hidden charges. It's the type of surprise that you don't want to see. It's like an October surprise, but it's worse. D.T. McCall & Sons, they're not going to do that. They're great people. They're going to give you a great deal. With locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, D.T. McCall & Sons will give you the deal of your life. Check them out today or go to dtmccalls.com.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Well, Donald Trump was named the Time Man of the Year. And as part of the promotion of that, he went to the New York Stock Exchange this morning and rang the bell. That's the big deal, you know, the big deal. You go to the New York Stock Exchange, the center of capitalism in the world. And typically, you ring the bell when you have a company that they take public. And typically, you know, when you take a company public, the founders make a ton of dough because their stock becomes liquid over a period of time. In other words, they can sell it. And it's a big deal. It's a great honor to ring the bell to open the New York Stock Exchange. As he did it this morning, it was quite interesting. He rings the bell to open it, and everybody on the floor started chanting, USA, USA, USA. It was like spectacular. After that, Jim Cramer from CNBC interviewed Donald Trump. We have a bit of this. I want to tell you a little bit about Cramer. He's a bit of a folk hero, but he's also, I don't know how you would describe him, a little bit over the top, shall we say. And he's kind of a folk hero among college kids, but often, let's just say a lot of his picks don't go so well over time, but he presents them with great enthusiasm. Is that a good way of putting it? I know Jim Cramer. I wouldn't say he's a friend of mine. We were in the same class at Harvard way back when. He was the editor of the Harvard Crimson. He got into a bit of a tussle with the way they did it at Harvard. You'd have these residential communities called houses where about 400 people would live. And the head of that house would be called the master of the house. It would be I think maybe they've abandoned that term. So that was a faculty member would be on it. And Cramer got into a tussle with a faculty member. And when we graduated, you would receive your diploma not in the big center of the campus at the yard, but you go into your house, and they would have courtyards, and they'd be there in front of your parents. And so I got up to got my diploma and shook hands with the master of the house. It was fine. Picture with the parents. It was the master of the house, because he'd gotten into a tussle with Cramer. The master of the house refused to shake hands with him, and I wasn't a big fan of Cramer because he's kind of a know-it-all type guy, right? from New York City or something like that. But I went over and asked him. I told him afterwards that I thought it was very bad form, and he said, "Yes, of course it was bad form." And he went off to being more Jim Cramer. Anyways, that's my Jim Cramer story. He interviewed Donald Trump this morning after Trump rang the bell. Here's a bit of that interview.
What do you have to say to the American investor in this country?
Well, I think you're going to see some very good days ahead. A lot of incentives are going to be given. You saw yesterday a $1 billion investment, and we give you very fast approvals. Nobody's come up with that one yet, although it seems pretty simple. I think you're going to have some great days ahead. We have to conclude a couple of bad wars that are going on. A lot of bad things are going on, but we'll get them done.
Do you think that we are in a situation where business will be far more embraced under you than currently?
Well, I don't want to really knock current, but I will tell you more than at any time, anywhere in the history of our country.
Now, we used to speak together about the idea that the averages mattered and were a good barometer of your performance. Is that still the case when we go beyond Dow Jones, maybe to NASDAQ?
Well, I think I've always said, to me, stock market is all of it, all of it together. It's very important. It's an honor to be here at New York Stock Exchange. I sort of joked that I actually bought the building across the street because the stock exchange was here. It's a big deal.
40, it's a nice building.
40 Wall Street. So,
okay, so pretty good. We're going to come back to that here in a little bit. A pretty good little opening segue there, and so far Cramer has not. These are good questions from Cramer, and the president's hitting them out of the park, especially that proposal, and I love it. Look, the whole idea is the United States is the only part of the world where you can have freedom and liberty. The only part. And that means that's where you want to attract capital so you can build businesses. And so this $1 billion investment, come here, no regulations, brilliant idea. Common sense, as he said. Why hasn't somebody done it? Here's more on the Cramer interview this morning of Donald Trump in the New York Stock Exchange.
Look, we're gonna do things I think that haven't been really done before. We're gonna be cutting taxes still further. We got it down to 21%. We're gonna bring it down even below that. You pay 21 if you don't build here, and meaning your product or whatever it is you're building. And if you do, we're going to try getting it down to 15%. But you have to build your product, make your product in the USA.
And how about every working person who's watching it would love to be able to see dividend tax maybe much lower, capital gains much lower?
Well, we're going to be talking about that, and we're really talking about lowering taxes. Last time, as you know, we took it probably from close to 44, 45% down to 21. Everyone said that was impossible. Now, it was always I really wanted to get it down to 15, and we'll be able to do that. And if you remember, we had the best 3 years in the history of our country from the standpoint of the economy. And you've been so professional and so good. I haven't seen you so much since I've been a politician.
Well, thank you, sir. We were together, and I was grateful to be a judge on The Apprentice. We had a great time.
That's right. You were a judge. He was a tough judge. He was a tough judge.
All right, let me. Yeah. So obviously, Cramer at CNBC, of course. The Apprentice program was on NBC, so that's why Cramer was participated as a judge there in one of the Apprentice cases. So, okay, well, look, he's making the rounds. People in mainstream regime media are kind of kissing the ring, too. That's a good thing. That's part of his plan. All right, when we come back, we'll have the Tennessee bonus hour. Aaron Gulbinson with the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition joins us. Lots to talk about. Back after this.